I'm recording. There we go. Let's get us into a gala review. All right, let's do this. So today, Tamyris Garcia and I are coming together to discuss. We have so many great things to talk about today. Part of it is going to be recognizing the illusion of the matrix around us, but really more so is going to be recognizing and supporting you and working within the inner child of yourself in order to support you in breaking free from the matrix, and then bringing our next generation and our children, who are really the key to everything, when it comes to our future, when it comes to our transformation, when it comes to the global ascension, when it comes to our expanded consciousness. Everything lies with our children, and to give us the opportunity to support our children in the highest of love, and from the space that all of us as parents come from, and all of us as caregivers, as teachers, and as simply as shepherds to our futures here on the planet, to come together. Because if there's one place, as Tamyris mentioned to me earlier today, that we all agree on, it's that we want what's best for our children. And so we're going to discuss that today. Tamyris is just incredible. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, because you have so many amazing things. I don't even know where to start in talking about you. We go back on the physical plane. We go back a number of years. We've been working together, wow, since, I don't know, 4 years, something like that. And we are very, very intertwined energetically. We're sisters from forever, pretty much. And so with that, Tamyris, let you go ahead and just introduce yourself, open up the conversation. Let's flow. Let's have fun. Let's make magic happen.
I am a spiritual transformational coach. I work within the fields of the inner child. I see how the inner child comes with gifts, comes with all the magic that we want to share into the world. But then naturally we get conditioned and we get programs, but it's actually supposed to happen just like that, so that we can really figure out the opposite of the mission that we came here to do. So we kind of choose a specific mission, and then we have to go through the opposite of what that would look like, so we can figure out why that mission is so important. And that's why it takes a lot of work for people to stand in their powers and find their sovereign selves. And, Safra was one of my first mentors. She really, really goes into nature, into connecting with everything and loving everything. And that's, for me, where our connection will never die, because she will always have that place in my heart. And I think I can't say that about many other teachers that I have encountered, because they actually don't hold that part of connection to everything and love for everything, regardless of where we are. And that's really beautiful how you do that.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you. First of all, that was really nice. I appreciate that. So let's go ahead then, and let's kind of just get into the understanding what you were talking about. The words that I use, it's the same idea, just a little bit different language. Is for those of my clients or students, or those of you that have heard me speak in the past, what she's talking about with the mission, this is your life vision. And so with these experiences that you have, in childhood, in trauma, in limiting beliefs, in even karmic experiences, are all come together through your life vision for you to choose to elevate through them and grow into your sovereign power. So that mission is literally just another word for your life vision. And if you are coming from maybe a more religious mindset, here you would be talking about that's almost like the destiny, the predestined, and then your choice, that freedom of choice within the predestiny, is the choices that you make here in the lifetime. Are you going to work towards that goal, or are you going to let those triggers, those experiences, bring you down? And it's a choice. It is 100%. a choice that you make, whether you're aware of it or not, right? So Tamyris, can you maybe talk to us and help us understand that inner child work? What is the inner child? And how do we use inner child to bring us, into just a better place, into our
Yes,
healing?
I love that you're asking me this, because this is exactly what I want to let people know, and I'm enjoying this conversation so much. So the inner child is the part of us that takes care of our emotional, our heart, our well-being in the emotional level. And a lot of us have to go through the damage because it's part of the process. But then we have the responsibility to parent that inner child. Instead of criticizing where our parents went wrong, we check within ours, where are we also committing the same mistakes, which is actually always how it happens. Um, Through working with other people, I figured out that most of the things that we complain that our parents lacked in is the same, almost the same violations that we do to our own inner child. And how funny is that?
Yep. Because it gives us that space. It gives us that space to take that responsibility over our perspectives and our experience. This is one of the most
And
amazing.
what
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and what a humble experience, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that we see is that, where you're talking about, it's so easy to blame. It's so easy to place the blame. And if you're coming from that perspective of recognizing that these are various triggers in your life that you can grow from, you're also coming from the space when we're talking about this matrix, right? This current matrix that we're in, the one that we're in right now, this slave matrix, pretty much the slavery of our minds, the closing of our minds. The idea behind this matrix is that we need to look outside for support, for responsibility, for caregiving, for caretaking, and therefore we go also outside to blame. And one of the incredible ways of breaking through this matrix is taking that blame and shifting that perspective and looking at it and saying, what can I learn? How can I grow from this? And how can I take that responsibility over my experience so that I can bring myself into that sovereign state? How can I heal that child within that was harmed on however many various levels, and experiences that we had? And how can we support her or him to be nurtured, to continue to grow, while holding on to that um, innocence and beauty?
And I love what you just said, because it really starts with taking full responsibility, forgiveness work, choosing to forgive from this place to commit the same mistakes. And that when you're pointing at someone, there's always those three fingers pointing right back at you of where you could be doing. And what I love the most about doing this work is how it plays in many, many different levels, many different levels of one picture. So that same issue that you haven't healed will come to play in your life with your children, will come to play in your life with your husband, will come to play in your job. How many of us have seen people at work who are still in the wound of their child? And the biggest thing is not even knowing that you are stuck in that program.
It's true. It's true. I want to take myself off of videos that you have the big screen. And then can you go ahead and talk about working through that programming and supporting our children through that? I'll still be here to talk, but I want people to see you while you're talking.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
breaking up a little bit, but
this should help.
so when we start the forgiveness work, so I kind of want to go into my story. My father passed away on the end of 2012, right before Christmas.
Mhm.
And I still had a lot that I needed to tell him. I had a lot that I was saving for that moment, that when I see him face to face, I was going to let him know he hurt me here, he hurt me there. This was something I didn't accept that he did. And when he died, I was left to deal with all of that, because no one else, I wasn't going to see him to be able to express the things. And I knew that those things were heavy in my heart. And that's when I began to really see spirituality and be open to it, because I felt his presence in many different levels and his love. And it was, I began to find ways to heal and release myself from these woundings. And then I began to see how I was committing those same mistakes, that I was judging him. And not just to my own inner child, but to my children too. Because it's so easy for us to continue the cycle of abuse. And I began to see that that wasn't the route I wanted to go into. I began the healing work. I began to really connect to my inner child. I always tell people, like, early in the morning, right before you wake up, is the perfect time to just ask your inner child, what is it that you would like to do today? What would make you happy today? Because when you're doing that, you're actually connecting to the emotional piece in your heart. What is it that your heart wants to do? And a lot of times we get so caught up with life, we get caught up with everything, and we forget to check within. So knowing these tips and then seeing how powerful they are, I think we think that the inner child work is not that important. And I see people only doing half of it and not really going deep. And that's why you always need somebody who can energetically go that deep to bring it back to you.
Yes.
And not everyone is capable of actually seeing and showing you what they're seeing, which I see they do a big, like, almost, if you start something and you don't complete it, it's actually worse, because now you think you did it, versus someone who gets to complete it and really see the fruits of it. And I like to test things by the fruits. And there's not just inner child, of course, right? There is higher self, there is ego, and all of them, and their self. Self is just our physicality. Our higher self is the part of us that is always connected to God, our intuitive side. There's many names, right? And then there's ego. Ego is actually parts of the programs when we got conditioned, that we gave power to kind of protect us. But ego is also like a child in a way. It just needs guidance. It needs something to do. It needs to be checked on. It needs to be heard and seen and loved. And a lot of people are talking about killing ego or the death of ego. No, ego also gets to upgrade. Ego also gets to get healed. Do you want to add anything into this?
I do. That's why I jumped back on the video. That's one of the things, and Tamyris knows as well, because she and I've had this conversation a million times in the past. One of the things that the game with the ego is that we believe we are our ego. We don't recognize that ego is a portion of us, or a part of the whole that we are. And so we spend our lives believing that we are our ego. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. I want to be a president. I want to be a teacher. Whatever happened to, I want to be fulfilled. I want to be unconditional love. I am happy. This kind of stuff. And the society that we've created has been very much to the end of nurturing the fear within the ego. And that is literally the mask that we wear and believe that is who we are. And so to support what you are saying, Tamyris, is that one way to help your ego to bring her into check, or him into check, is if you think about it like a small child. Generally, when you think about your ego as a child, just as your inner child, you will see them where they stopped growing, pretty much. Mine is a 5-year-old. That's when you kind of became less innocent, you could say, when you kind of saw the world through limitation. And to recognize that they're like a child without any fencing, with no structure. And so they're scared because they can do anything.
You are breaking up a little bit.
Okay, well, then I'll stop. But the bottom line is to see your ego where they are, accept that fear, and then together work with them to see a better future, or a better present. Together, recognizing that fear. I'm coming off a video. Okay.
This is so exciting for me because this is exactly where I like to bring people, because when you have this understanding and this deeper conversation, you're not just someone who is fast to assume something. You sit with yourself, you sit in connection to these voices, you have meetings in your own mind where you
Mhm.
ask your higher self to kind of connect to the truth. And we all know truth because we can feel it, and we can't ignore it when we feel it, because we just, everyone feels it different, but we feel the truth. And then we can all be like, okay, what is it that you would need to be part of this? A lot of times I could be procrastinating, and then I talk to my team, which is my higher self, my ego, my inner child. And normally my inner child is like, can we do something fun? And if I say yes, if you do this, we'll make something fun out of it, then my inner child's game for whatever that thing that normally it didn't want to do. Same goes for my ego. I took a little trip
Yes.
um, camping, and I was like, this trip is for you, ego. I want to get to know you. And I noticed my ego is almost very um, like the tomboyish. It likes to do like, camping stuff and playing with woods and creating little things. And I started to understand what it needs by
Uh-huh.
connecting to the energy of it and allowing it to express itself. And we are too busy and too caught up on Facebook, strolling, Instagram, on buying, that we're not even taking the time to consider our inner needs. And then we wonder why we feel jealous, why we feel envy, why we feel depressed, why we feel anxious. These are just a few of the emotions of disconnection.
Yes.
And through this conversation, I'm going to offer 3 people a chance to go deeper with me. I'm going to post about it on my Facebook if you are willing to try this out. If it's something that resonates to your soul, please, I'm going to write a post after this, and I invite you to dive deeper into this with me.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes, and Tamyris is definitely the person to go to when it comes to anything inner child work. It's amazing. So this is an excellent opportunity. And you'll add this in below the message as well in this video when we post this as well, if you don't mind as well. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I could wrap it just because of the Wi-Fi, but I would love to continue this.
Yeah.
And maybe if you guys have any questions, you could just stay and we'll just go at it as, the day goes on.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and because we're recording this, we're going to post this, and we'll see where that goes. And then another thing as well, Tamyris and I, no, no.
No.
This is our sign
I
from
think
universe
we,
to
we can
stop.
continue. Yeah.
This is the sign to stop.
So I'll just